Right, just showing another video. I think this is recording. Yep. Right, this is my chain casting geometry. What I'm going to show is how you can basically make this block as long as you want. So you could put more in lengthways along the red axis there. And you just basically plop these rings on top. And this geometry is mirrored along Y and along X twice over, which I could show you how it works because nobody's about, so I don't sound daft talking to myself. You can basically see how it works from this geometry here, but let's say I want to function home to bring the pivot point up. Go into here, frame up on all of it, and let's say I want to move this pivot point to the top, and we want it to be centered around 0, so I turn grid snapping on and middle mouse gesture. Somewhere over here, and it pops up like that. So now the pivot point is at the top there. I think that's on a grid line, to be fair. If I just move these out of the way, it might be easier to see it. Whoops. Oh, shit. Control Z, function home, to turn grid pivot point thing off. So select this object, and you can see the pivot point's right at the top there, just basically at the origin. If you look here, the thicker lines show where the origin is. It's kind of on the origin. Just there. It's not in the origin on the X dimension. So what I might do is move it just for, would that be forward a little bit, or is that dead on the origin now? Function home, move these out of the way a good distance. Frame up, zoom in. You can see the pivot point is on the origin now for that object. So what we're going to do, that's what it looks like. It's kind of underneath the grid, but select it, Shift D to copy, and then we want to scale this to mirror the geometry over. And this is the axis here, the one that's highlighted in yellow. You can see from the little widget in the corner that's the Y axis, which is pointing up. So just go to Y and change it to -1, and you get that. And you can see that the reason those triangles were placed on the back is hopefully because we want those to meet in the middle, which they don't. So I'm going to have to change this geometry yet again. Just tweaking building and stuff. And because we want the top piece here to sit on that bottom piece there. But then that's what it looks like from the front. If we select that whole piece and move it up, it should be fairly seamless. Frame up on it, deselect, and you can see there's literally no joins, and that's half of the problem in doing this. At the top of these, there's going to be a little hole for pouring the molten metal through. But let me just go back a couple of steps. Frame up. Obviously, I'm not really a manufacturer. I don't even know why I think about this geometry. I just do. But you can select this piece, go Shift D. This time, using the widget, we can see we want to do a rotation along Z. A negative scale along Z. So take that to -1. And the same for this piece here. Shift D, change that to -1. And you can see that's the fully realized version. Now if I go to wireframe mode, that's what it looks like. Could do with selecting it all to highlight it better. And then just to show you, let's bring up the shading. These toruses here are just basically, if we put the translate Z, would it be? I want to move, I think it should be translate Y. Let's have a look. Oh, it's translate Z for some reason. We'll put that back down to 0. And those are the pieces. Now if I move the top two away, and bearing in mind this is jumping because I've got grid snapping on, but if I turn it off it's a lot smoother. A to frame all, move it further up, select all them pieces there, and frame up. You can see that's what it looks like. Let's get these out of the way. We could probably delete them for now, or just select them and move them over there. Because remember, we only need one of the quarters in order to start the process. The other pieces are just mirrored versions of it. They just like look like little holes. I'll just deselect. But you can see when you pull this piece apart by moving it that way and move this one that way. What we could show you is these pieces. Well, we only need to show you one, so I'll just select one, Shift D, and do a rotation. Just bring up the rotation widget. We can see we need to rotate in X by, put it back to 0, bring W up and move it across. You can see that piece, just go over to this front view, effectively fits inside there. Sits inside there, and when you move it out, because we'll have all 4 pieces, so these two, what it allows is, what we're going to do, and by the way, I think Tiffany Co already do this, but from the top here, you can have a little hole where you pour the metal through, and that's going to form this ring around them two without having to bend and fuse wire. And you do that there, but like I said, this thing can be as many long as you want. So you just stick another one of these, Shift D, move it across. Whoops, Control Z. That didn't work out. Select that properly. To there. Which I'm going to show when I flesh out the video properly. Let's just go into this more. Make sure it's lined up properly. Just a little bit out. Just noodling about. Obviously, all that's important in this scene file is this single piece here and one of these rings. And once you get all that working, I'll render out a final animation, trying to show it best. But you can probably get more information from me just giving a tutorial like this. Obviously that'll be forward, so let's see. This is X. Would you change X back to 0? Don't know. No. Control Z. For some reason the things are messed up on this, so. But I think that's because I need to delete history or something. But you can see they kind of, once you move these blocks apart, they kind of fit through there. So once you've done that bit, then because they're going through like that, these bits here effectively lift off. Whoops. Control. Just bring it back over. Do we need that at 0, 0? Yep. Frame up. Frame up. Move back over. So that's 6.12. Negative 4.9. Whoops. Negative 4.91. Let's just see. Negative. Whoops. What was it? 4.91. Negative 0.5. And change this to 0.5 and change this to negative 0.5 and this to 0.5. Once you've got those pieces like that, they're inside somewhere. You can start lifting this upwards to free. Oops, Control Z. I want to do this front one. You can lift those pieces upwards. So all these pieces here will move up first and then diagonally out this way at 45 degrees to free these pieces. If people were wondering what exactly I in my first video, well, it was just an animation. I suppose it's like engineering in a way, and I know that Tiffany Co necklaces are made like this, just from looking at them, because there's no joins or seams in the links. They're just perfect uniform geometry. a lot of machines I looked into back in the day bend and fuse pieces of wire to make intricate little ones. Obviously this would probably never work on a very tiny scale, but once you start scaling it up a bit and make the links a little bit bigger, that's the sort of thing you can do. Anyway, it jogs my memory about how the tools in Maya work, because I'm using Unreal Engine 2 and C++ coding to just noodling about with computer graphics. That's what I do. So let's call it a day on this video, I think. Right. I think it's fairly fancy. Bye. In a second. There we go.